So what is Drupal? Drupal is a content management system. What is that? It means it's a framework for helping you manage your content. Drupal is mainly written in PHP. There's jQuery, JavaScript, and a few other technologies behind it, as well as it uses a database. Usually the database they use is MySQL. So if you have a MySQL skills, you can go into your database and take a look at what's going on. As I mentioned before, there's JavaScript, CSS, jQuery, various things. It's also open source, which means that it's free to anyone to use. The last time I checked, there's about 1 million Drupal websites out there. So it is being used. Not all of them are probably production websites, but it is a fairly popular hosting service. Drupal has a small core that bootstraps everything up to get it working. Then it uses a set of modules to really define functionality. So you might have something that creates paths for you rather than using the normal paths, which, yeah, anyways, there's path auto, path alias. Various modules give you different functionality. And then it has a theme structure that's completely separated or almost completely, such that you can have a site over here and a theme over here, and you can kind of mix and match. Then lingo. Drupal has, like any community or whatever, you have your own lingo. And here, so we're going to talk a little bit about the lingo for Drupal. First of all is entity types, often known as content types. They are, if you're a programmer, they're like your classes. They're like they're an abstract thing that then you can make instances of. Instance is typically a node. That's your content. So you could have, an instance of a dog. This is my dog, Jacob. That would be, a node is an instance of maybe an event type. Everything in Drupal just about has a URL, and we also call it a path. A menu is then a collection of paths. And so the menu can actually have paths within your site and without that link out as well. There are things that do not have URLs, and those are usually called blocks. The blocks are the pieces of content you place on your page. So you have a page, then you have like stuff in the sidebar, or maybe below and above the main content. And those are placed, that's what you call a block. Drupal uses the idea of taxonomies or vocabularies. We often know that as tagging. You tag something with a particular subject, and you can find it based on that subject. As we continue, on a particular website, you have users. Those are people who can log into the site. Each user has a role or one or more roles. You can be administrator, you could be site owner, you could be anonymous. And those roles come with various permissions. So you can have one or more roles associated with a particular user. We have an idea, we have views, which are kind of like a database report. It goes out, it does a database query, but it also formats it for you when you display it. Another thing to know about Drupal is the caching. Caching is wonderful because it makes your site go much faster. That means when it does a database query, it grabs the information and posts it, the next person that comes along doesn't have to do the database query and look it up, it just grabs it out of cache. That's lovely when the site is in production. However, if it's not in production, anybody tell me what happens when it's not in production? When you're using the cache? Yes. And so what do? Suzanne, you clear the cache. You clear the cache twice if you don't see it. You never know. Just clear the cache. Why did Stanford center on Drupal? And so these are some of the reasons. One is it's scalable. We talked about modules where you can add functionality. So that means you don't have to have, you can adapt your site to what you need. So it doesn't have to be a huge monster, but it can actually be fine-tuned for your needs. Security. Security is a huge thing, and Stanford is really concerned about security. And that's probably the main reason why Stanford Web Services exists, is because Well, two reasons, but security is one of them. Stanford does not want websites getting hacked. And so that's why we're pushing the Stanford Sites model. You can get your site on the Stanford Sites. We provide some of a lot of services, but we also limit it so that because of security purposes, we don't want people putting PHP code on the server, for example, because they might be doing the right thing. Somebody might get into your site and hack it, and then into your account, and then they could be doing some malicious stuff. So that's why we limit what you can do. What's nice about Drupal is that Drupal has a dedicated security team. And that team is one that'll go out and monitor for security breaches. And then they'll tell the community, hey, we're going to have a patch for a security breach coming up. Be ready to bring that onto your site. And they roll it out. You bring it on right away. Now that the vulnerability is out there, you need to put it on your site because now everybody knows how to hack it. But it's really nice that Drupal is so conscientious about security, and that's one reason we really embrace Drupal. Another thing is Drupal is working towards accessibility, trying really hard to make the pages and everything accessible to people with screen readers and other assistive technologies. And finally, one of the reasons I picked up Drupal. Actually, I went and I compared Drupal with some other CMSs when I started in my web career. And listening to podcasts and various things, I found that the Drupal podcast, the Drupal community was the most supportive community of all the communities that I listened to. For example, in WordPress, you have to buy your various plugins. Drupal, they're all free. What happens in WordPress is they have plugins that are galore, and it's really hard to identify which plugin you want to get. You have to buy it, you have to put it on your site, find out it doesn't work. Drupal is doing a good job of curating these modules. If there's two modules that are similar, they look at trying to get them to merge. It makes it just cognitively, it's a lot easier to work with because they work really hard at making these modules available and smart. So if you have, go look at Drupal.org and go learn about all things Drupal. There's tutorials out there, anything you want, really. So we're going to move on to Stanford Sites. What is Stanford Sites? Did you want to go for it?
So Stanford Sites is a software as a service that we offer. It is free for all faculty, staff, and students. And we have a nice little hand-picked set of modules for you on the site. It also looks good on a lot of devices because our team has created responsive themes that you can use. And as Carol previously stated, we handle all the security updates, so you guys don't have to worry about any of those things. Here are a couple examples sites that are on the Stanford Sites platform. We have a group site here. This is an example of a group site. That's so nice.
It gives an example of just a very simple site, but with the imagery and everything. It's just a lovely little site. And this is a site somebody did without any support from Stanford Web Services. And so that's the example of an organization site.
And then we have an example of a personal people site.
So this is a personal site. Which is beautiful. The styling and everything, the imagery, great colors.
And this is just completely done by Nicole herself. And then, of course, if you wanted to see other site superstars that are also on Stanford Sites, we do have a blog category on our website, swsblog.stanford.edu. And here we also present a couple of other sites that exist.
So if you see a site that you think is a really cool site, feel free to forward it to us.
So getting your site. So essentially, in order to request a site, you can go to this URL, or you could also go to sites.stanford.edu. Once you click Get Started, you'll be brought down to the section where you can either request a group or department website or a personal site. So there is a difference between the two. Normally, we recommend if you're a professor with a lab, if you are in charge of running a group, essentially anything outside of personal resume / portfolio, you would lean towards getting a group department site. Personal sites, we usually reserve that for like resumes, portfolios. It's like more for yourself versus, I guess, the general public.
So we already have the URL.
So there is one thing. Is this for just the group site? Or no. So it is for a department site.
Yeah, generally we can do a random post, but not for the people. Group sites. Yeah, we get occasionally requests for group for people sites and then the URL, the vanity host, but we tell them we need to move it to group site.
Because there are some vanity host guidelines that Stanford actually has, where it's like your personal site can't have it be like RebeccaHong.stanford.edu. That's actually not allowed. But anyways, whichever you choose, we definitely would like to remind you guys to please hit the submit button. There's been many times where people do not hit the submit button, and the email is going like, "Hey, where's my website?" Like, I'm so sorry. Who are you, and what site were you requesting? Yeah, so just one important thing.
So, okay, so Stanford Web Services has a group of products that are called Jumpstart sites. And if you come to Stanford Web Services, you can purchase one of these sites as a service. We have various sites. We have like a Jumpstart Simple, which is basically no extra features, and we have like a Jumpstart Lab, which has like events and news and people features. And Suzanne, what you have is Jumpstart Engineering. And if you're in the School of Engineering, you're lucky. The School of Engineering really wants to have consistent branding across all of their sites. So they have provided for you free service to come and get what's called the Jumpstart Engineering site. And it has all the bells and whistles that we came up with, and we thought would be good for what we call HICLs, which is Programs, Institute, Centers, Affiliates, and Labs within School of Engineering. So that's what you're looking at. You're on the Jumpstart Engineering platform for the information departments. You have a lot.
So there's like a little difference between our paid and free service.
What we're focusing on here today is our free service, because we will work with you if you want to pay us. We'd really like you to be able to do these sites.
Essentially, after you request your site, you're supposed to receive an email from us once it has been built. And then after that, you should be able to visit your site. We actually requested a demo site.
So we talked a little bit at the beginning about a module, which extends the functionality of a Drupal site. So module, I always think of them as building blocks. You have a little, we have like an event module, we have news module, and the people module, and put them all together, and pretty soon you have the site that you want. When you go to your website and you're trying to figure out what modules you have available to you, you would go to admin/modules, or you click on this modules menu item, and then you come up to this page. And clearly, if it's on, it means it's enabled for your site. If it's off, it has not been enabled. So we're going to look at one of the modules that we have put together and provided for you on the site's hosting platform. And this is called the Stanford Page. Drupal has its own, it's called Basic Page. And this is very, Stanford Page is very similar. We have done a couple extra things for Stanford Page, and I'll bring those up. So Stanford Page, we find it is mostly, it's good for most content. You can use it as a home page. You can put it on the menu, on your main menu or some drop-down or secondary menus. It also, we have in there a way to have a featured image. We can also insert images into the content. We can also insert files into either the content or have it down below. And this picture over here on the right, you see is an example of what the editing form would look like when you go to, once you enable the module, and you go and you say, I want to create a new one, this is what the form is going to look like. So actually, I'll talk it through. We have a title. Here we have a way to update and put in the featured image. There's your body. There's a, you upload other images here, and then you upload your files there. And you can put it on the menu down here. And we can actually look at that in a live one. So if I clicked directly to that, you're not going to be able to do that. What you're going to do is you're going to go to content, and then you go to add content, and you go to, oops, you go down to Stanford Page, and that'll bring this up. So here's the image. You could upload an image. I guess I could do that real quick. Do you have a, I don't know what image. That looks like a great image.
Yeah, those are all the cardinal.
Nice. To upload the image, we have a credits field, so you could say Cardinal Hall. I can't spell. Who all is over at Redwood City? Anybody? Yeah. We are over at Redwood City now. Oh, that's credits, sorry. We'll put Rebecca here. The caption is, please.
So let's say we're able to embed, and then when we start struggling, when can we reach out to you and will this free become not free?
Well, that's a really good question, and we struggle with that. We're working through that right now. So first of all, 25 Live, we've done some extra, we might be able to support you with that because we've done some work for School of Engineering, I think. And so we have, you might just contact us and find out what's going on. What we do is we're starting to a retainer system, so that if you didn't order your site through us, or if you did, but it's already launched, you can come back to us and say, hey, I'd like a retainer, I'd like 5 hours of work on my site for consulting or other work. We're still working through the logistics of that, but we're hoping to get that up and going a smoother process. So that would be one option for you, is to say, I got this far, I need help, and then come up for a retainer. Yeah. So you go to Stanford Web. I mean, I'd look up Stanford Web Services and retainer, and it'll come up. So so that was one question you had. You said embedding. So I'm at the body text here, and suppose I want to embed something. I would go into disable rich text. I'd probably actually go to full HTML, and then you can go ahead and embed, get the embed code from YouTube or from other types of Facebook or anything you want to embed. Then you would embed that right in here using full HTML. It's easier to edit your website if you're not in full HTML. I wouldn't do that on a regular basis. But if you are putting up a YouTube video, then you would embed it through here. Sure, why not? This is all about And this is all about answering your questions today. And we can find out what Rebecca's been watching.
Sorry. John actually sent me that. I didn't
Okay.
understand what Crash meant.
Okay, so let's see now. So
Welcome back to the beginner's guide. In the last video, we installed Visual Studio Code.
Thank you. So let's see, mini player, share. Do you know how to do this? Have you done this for? You're probably faster than me. Why don't you do
All right, so you're gonna want to go to the YouTube video that you want, and there's a little share button at the very bottom. And we're gonna click on that, and then we're gonna click on embed. Then they'll give you the iframe code here, so we'll just copy that. And then we'll go back to our sample page. And then we'll want to make sure that the text format right here is on full HTML.
Yeah, because otherwise, if it's not in full HTML, we have things that will strip stuff out, and so it won't show up.
Mm-hmm.
The reason we strip things out is so that your pages that this website don't have some really janky, get some really weird colors or really weird fonts. So you want your site to look pretty, so that's why we strip a lot of stuff so that they're consistent. However, when it comes to embedding, this is really good use of full HTML. Embedding.
So after you embed it, occasionally people like to add text to the bottom. So when you're editing it in the WYSIWYG, as content editor text format, you can just switch it back, put text here, and then before you save, you'll want to save it as full HTML. Otherwise, the iframe will be processed.
One pro tip here is anytime you embed something, whether it's a file or an image, it needs to be on its own line. So we notice that Rebecca made sure that her text was on its own line, so that way it'll behave a lot. What you expect.
So then if we save, we need a title. Test page. All right, so once we save, you can now see that the featured image is automatically normally to the right.
Well, actually, it's not normally. There's a little trick. It should be in the feature. It's not. Or the module. It's not. We'll talk about that next.
And then the text is here, video is here, and then the text underneath the video is here. And you can change the video height. I feel like I'm going a little bit too in depth, but you can change the video height within the code if you wanted to. Because I know some people prefer full span images.
You can put your ARIA labels in there. You can put ARIA accessibility. You can put all sorts of stuff inside there to fine tune how you want it to be.
Are those dimensions constraints if you were to change the width or all that?
I bet if you delete it, yeah.
I think normally if it doesn't auto resize. So this is how it would look like if you didn't change the height as well. Mm-hmm.
What happens if you delete the
Ooh, now it shows it's even thinner.
Yeah, but just something you can play with. Oops. I lost our. Oops. Second one. There we are. Yay. Okay. So now another thing that we have provided, or that you have on your website, is if you go to your admin menu up here, and you click on content, you're going to get to this managing content page, or the content page. It's really helpful. I'm going to quick jump over to there, because you can see, these are all courses that are on the site. We've got Stanford events, we have Stanford Page. It's a way of bulk managing your pages. Some people actually use this page as kind of their home page. When they first come in, they go to the manage content page, or to the content page. I mixed that up. When we give you a Jumpstart site, we have a feature called Manage Content, where it actually will, we have added a few bells and whistles to it. But this is what you can get out of the box, which is pretty handy. So this is a tip. Rebecca had said something about the image, the featured image going over to the right. It doesn't do that automatically. It's kind of a bug. So, pro tip: what you do is you're going to use some CSS code to make it go over to the right. And just, this is unfortunate I have to show you this, but we're moving on to Drupal 8, and so this is a Drupal 7 site. You go into what's called CSS Injector, and that's under Development, CSS Injector, and you create an injector rule, and you can put your CSS in there. This is the CSS for, so what this particular rule says is, hey, if you have an image on a node, I want you to, in this position, I want you to float it right. That's what that rule says. If you can put all of your rules in there, and that's how people have made their sites look really pretty, is by using the CSS injector. And next. Okay, real quick, we've talked about what is Drupal. We've talked about Stanford Sites hosting. We looked into getting a site. We looked at what modules and content are. We looked at Stanford Page as an example. Any questions up to this point? You guys have been really good at asking questions. Okay, moving on. Questions. Now we're going to jump into the Stanford WYSIWYG. Yes. The templates like the Jumpstart?
Do you have any flexibility to customize strictly according to the
So we have, what you have themes. Yeah, that's fine. Let's go back here. Can bring up a there it is. Okay, thank you. Okay, so once you get your site, we're going to jump into this later, but the question is now, so let's go for it. We have a themes page, and these are the themes that you have available to you. I'll talk about a little bit about them. Stanford Light is what you're going to get on any site, a Stanford site, obviously. This is the one. It's an older theme, Stanford Light. Open Framework is kind of our newer theme. This one is Stanford branded a little bit. The Open Framework has more functionality. And then when you get a Jumpstart site, you get Stanford Framework, which has all the bells and whistles for Stanford branding. So those are two choices. There's also Bartik, which is a native Drupal theme. If you were going to get a Drupal site out of the box, you would get the Bartik theme. We have 7, which is an administrative theme. So we have on the administrative theme is different from the public-facing theme, and you don't really want to mix them up. First of all, the administrative theme allows you to see what's going on, that you are in fact on the back end versus you're editing things versus what the public sees. So it's a good idea to use different themes. The other thing is that there's different regions in the back end on the administrative side than on the front end. And so you may not have things showing up as expected. So you always use an administrative theme for the back end. Also, there's a Garland theme, which is one of the oldest themes in Drupal. We have Stanford Basic, which again has some Stanford, it's an older theme, it has some Stanford theming. Yeah, you can just click and enable it, and then, and I forget how it works, but sometimes when they actually access different, there's enabled and there's installed, and these are not installed, these are just waiting to be installed if you want them. Stanford Modern is one of our oldest themes. Stanford 7, what we've done is we've taken 7 theme, and we've added some bells and whistles to it to make the Stanford 7. And then Stark is, again, a native Drupal theme. What was your question? Those are the themes that you have available to you. And then once you choose a theme, and you use your CSS injector to add, you customize it. You can also use JavaScript injector, so you can put JavaScript on the pages, and that can add a lot of functionality.
What's the timeline for Drupal 8?
Yes, there is a timeline. It will exist. You know, it's well, part of it, we just got funding, just like this week,
Like last Thursday.
like that last. So we have not. So we had some funding to develop this so that we can provide it. We haven't had funding to develop it, so we haven't been able to put resources towards it. Or many. Some schools, like School of Engineering, has given us funding to start pushing forward and come up with a platform for running Drupal 8 sites. And we love. Yeah, so that's what's so cool is because we're a central organization, we can take, if your organization develops a module, then Suzanne's organization can use it. Exactly, and actually we put it up on GitHub and you can use it at home. So yeah.
So did we start at 7 and 8?
What is it? So the advantage to doing that, believe it or not, there is an advantage. And that is you've gotten all of your content into one place. You figured it out. So it's just a matter of copy paste over to Drupal. And sometimes that is the hardest part about getting a website up. It's not about getting functionality going. It's getting the right content. And really that's the most important thing about your website. So even if you know that Drupal 8 is coming up, just jump on it, get your Drupal 7 site up, get your content in there, figure out how you're going to organize it, and then when it comes to Drupal 8, we hope, I don't know if we're going to be able to actually do actual feed from one to the next, but at least you can copy paste in and you're done. You've already got your content organized. So go for it. I'd love to say go for a Drupal 8 site. We don't have them available. Yes?
I'm going to ask a related question, both about the retainer system we mentioned and this transition. So for folks that, how long have you been in business?
7 years. A little over 7 years, almost 8.
5 plus years.
What's your site?
Longer.
Okay.
Are we grandfathered in any way? And I mean, like, are we just left high and dry once our site is established? And for this transition, literally, we are going to be responsible for going.
Yes.
I see.
So it's like you get a new car, right? You're going to have to take all of your stuff out of the trunk and put it back into the new trunk.
Okay. So
That's
tells
just,
me that
it's something.
less stuff the better, at least currently, because the more I add, the more we have.
It actually comes up pretty quickly. I mean, to be able to just copy and paste to do that. And you can also hire a student to do the copy paste once you have it figured out.
Okay, I was just going to say, is that going to be offered as a service?
If we have enough,
You get there.
right? I mean, we have hired students to come in and work. We've hired outside vendors to come in and do that. If that's something you're willing to pay for, we'll probably find it for you.
Okay.
That's what the retainer is all about. Any other questions? Okay, moving back. Okay, on to WYSIWYG. Are you ready? Do you want to do it?
I feel like everyone here is so advanced and knows what WYSIWYG is.
Well,
Does anyone know what it stands for? Oh, darn. So it does stand for what you see is what you get. Earlier we were working in the WYSIWYG right here. So in the WYSIWYG, we have a toolbar here, which consists of the basic functionalities that you'd normally see like in a WordPress, or not WordPress, sorry, Word document. We have like bold, italicize, bulletin points, numerical points, and also like indentations, undo, which you can also do using Control-Z and also Command-Z, which is a lot easier. But there is that button there just in case. We also have the hyperlink button, the unhyperlink button, I do not know what this button does. Image properties.
Yeah, we usually insert image insert.
Yeah, so don't use that button. Use this one on the bottom instead for image inserting. So we have those, and then we also have a set type of styling, headings 2 to 5 or 6, 2 to 6. We also have like this formatted box, which looks like this. Or it puts into a box. Normally people like to use that for code samples or snippets. We also have styling here as well, where you can, actually let's highlight this text.
It does the whole deal.
Oh yeah, because it does. So different little stylings here and there.
Let's try the magic word is.
Ah, we have
This
this
is really
magic blue
important.
eraser here.
This
And
is
so
like-
that helps.
What happens is when you copy and paste something from a Word document or something like that, it comes with its own formatting.
Let's see.
What happens? Have you used it before?
Yes.
And what happens when
Just style these and just all.
it strips out all that extra crap
Yeah.
that you just pasted in. So what happens is you paste it in, you save it, and it's really weird on the website. So you go back in and you hit the magic blue eraser and it cleans it up. It doesn't always clean up everything. There are times when it just can't get to it. So either you go into disable rich text and clean things up, or sometimes I'll just open a notepad or something that has no formatting, which I used to be but just paste it in there, copy it, drop it back in there, and we're good to go. It has all that formatting removed.
All the formatting here already has included in like the
Mhm.
Yes. And that's why we strip things though when we go to display it, is so that it keeps that same look and feel. And it will drive people crazy, but we want good looking websites.
Mhm.
So you have to, if there's a balance there.
Did you want to talk about how you can also edit the WYSIWYG so that you can
Yeah,
not
sure.
have?
We have 0 minutes left. So we have some transition time. So feel free to leave if you're
So there is a way to edit your WYSIWYG profile, so whatever text that you do copy in doesn't necessarily have to have. So there's two things. There's either you copy it in and you just get the text only, or you could also have the hyperlinks, or if there are hyperlinked texts or buttons and stuff that you'd also like to carry over, you could also edit it through the WYSIWYG profile, which is under configurations, content authoring, WYSIWYG profile, and content text editor format. And it should be right here. Clean up and output. So you can apply, you can either have this checked or unchecked depending on whether or not you want to have your information pre-processed. I believe out of box though, it is checked.
I wouldn't recommend, I would go to the CSS one. What you do is if you want a particular style to be able to show up on your site, you can stick it in there and then you have access to that. That'll show up on your drop down.
So it'll show up under this drop down. If you're CSS savvy and would like to add a little bit more customization in the WYSIWYG. So there's that.
And we are out of time with this Stanford. Let's go and skip to the So we're taking requests, but we don't. I guess we should have had scheduled 2 sessions, one right back to back, so we could do this whole thing. But if there are any other burning questions, yeah, I'll talk about that just a second.
I'm just curious what it is about the site superstars that make them stand out from the other sites.
They know how to use CSS.
Yeah.
Essentially, that's it.
It's good imagery,
Yeah.
good formatting, knowing how to put things in the right order. Heading, H2 goes underneath, H3 goes underneath H2, that sort of thing. And just knowing how to make things look good. Imagery is, you start with good imagery. What's your question again?
more class for Drupal?
Okay, I was just talking to Don Cameron, he runs tech training, and he's going to be bringing in a vendor to do basically this class, but in a larger format or something similar. I work with tech training a lot to tell them what kind of things we're going to talk. So I would check with Don Cameron or tech training about what, if you want a class, let them know you're interested in. You'll put classes together. Also during Techie Festival, which is in August, he usually will run, we've actually taught this at Techie Festival. I know he'd run yeah, just ask for it.
In another session, the Drupal session, they talked about labeling using card. And would it be easy for us to add that module in here? Or would we know how to insert it?
Okay, so the session you saw was a Drupal 8 session. This is for Drupal 7. However, go and bring up the landing page. You guys can leave.
No pressure.
We don't have a.
It's okay.
So landing page is a module that's actually, I don't know if it's on the JSE platform because it got built afterwards. But landing page is really nice because it does a pseudo blocks. Because what happens is placing blocks on pages is much more tricky. We chose a trickier approach. Well, anyways, the way we do blocks on Stanford Sites is we place blocks on pages using what's called context. That's kind of technical to do. That's why we, at Stanford Web Services, if you have a site for us, we will go and place those blocks. We've come up with this other content type called landing page. And that gives you, scroll to the top. It gives you the layout, bring up the layouts. It gives you a chance to list of items, or it takes those same items, flips them into blocks, or you can have cards. The difference between cards and blocks is the cards are linked. You have to have a link. You click on the card, and it takes you to a place. So then you can, Rebecca can demonstrate this real quick, how you make a landing page item. So you come in there, yeah. So here you have,
Oh no, that's a banner image.
you're putting the banner image, okay. Yeah, it has a banner image at the top, it has all sorts of different fields that allow you to, but actually you back up a little bit, wait.
Oh no.
So there's a card, there's an example of how a card would look. You put the tree well. Yeah. And then that will basically, here on the card, the text goes below on the list, the image will be on the left and the text. So that's been that's kind of our stopgap until we get to Drupal 8. In Drupal 8, we're going to have a lot of flexibility. I can't wait. But again, it's time and funding that is we're waiting for. But you guys are really lucky. I think Stanford is like one of the best web services in almost any university. Because I've been to a lot of, or at least for Drupal, I've been to a lot of conferences. We have a very robust environment for people to come. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your time. And by the way, I don't know if they mentioned it yet, they're putting survey on the session pages. So if you have any comments for us, I'd really like to hear them. Particularly, I love to hear what you liked, as well as, hey, you could have done this piece better. Please share that. Thank you.
Thank you.